From rising stars to 2026 powerhouses, how Lena and Miu are dominating the scene. What began as quiet momentum has turned into a full-scale takeover. As 2026 unfolds, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. Lena and Miu are no longer just names to watch. They are the names defining the year. Not through loud announcements or forced headlines, but through consistency, chemistry, and a presence that feels both intentional and inevitable. Just a year ago, Lena and Miu were still being introduced as rising stars. Talented, promising, but not yet untouchable. Fast forward to now, and the narrative has completely shifted. Industry insiders, fans, and even competitors are all asking the same question: when did this become their era? The answer lies in how quietly it happened. Instead of chasing trends, Lena and Miu focused on building credibility. Every appearance felt deliberate. Every project added weight to their image rather than noise. Their performances matured, their interviews sharpened, and their public dynamic evolved into something fans couldn't stop talking about, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt real. By early 2026, the signs were everywhere. Their names began trending without controversy. Clips of them, whether on set, at events, or behind the scenes, circulated not because of scandals, but because of presence. Fans weren't just watching, they were investing emotionally. Comment sections filled with the same sentiment: they feel different now. And they were. Lena stepped into roles that demanded depth, proving she wasn't afraid of complexity or silence. Miu followed with performances that balanced strength and vulnerability, earning praise from critics who once underestimated her range. Together, they didn't just complement each other, they elevated the standard of what audiences expected from on-screen partnerships in 2026. But domination doesn't come from talent alone. What truly sets Lena and Miu apart is how they've handled visibility. No overexposure, no rushed confirmations, no defensive statements. In an industry addicted to constant noise, they chose restraint, and it worked. Every time they appeared, it felt earned. Every time they spoke, people listened. Brands noticed. Award committees noticed. Platforms noticed. By mid-2026, their schedules reflected a different tier entirely. Prime placements, high-profile collaborations, strategic timing. This wasn't luck, it was positioning. And it signaled something bigger. Lena and Miu weren't just participating in the industry anymore. They were shaping it. Fans now talk about them the way people talk about defining pairs of an era. Not just for what they do, but for how they make others feel while doing it. Safe, seen, inspired. And perhaps that's why their dominance feels so complete. Because this isn't a takeover fueled by hype. It's one built on patience, trust, and growth. As 2026 continues, one truth becomes clearer with every passing month: this isn't their peak. It's their foundation. And the scene? It's already changed around them. By the time the second half of 2026 arrived, it was clear that Lena and Miu's rise wasn't slowing down. It was settling in. This was no longer the phase of surprise or disbelief. The industry had accepted it. The headlines shifted from "can they maintain this momentum" to "what will they do next?" That change in tone said everything. Behind the scenes, those close to the projects Lena and Miu were attached to began sharing the same observation. They showed up differently now. More focused, more selective, more aware of their influence. Scripts weren't just being offered, they were being tailored. Directors adjusted schedules around them. Creative teams listened when they spoke. And they did speak, just not often. When Lena finally addressed her journey in a rare interview, she didn't talk about pressure or fame. She spoke about timing, about learning when to say no, about understanding that growth sometimes means stepping back before stepping forward. Fans replayed that clip for days, not because it was shocking, but because it felt honest. Miu, in her own way, echoed the same philosophy. During a behind-the-scenes feature, she mentioned how 2026 felt like a year of alignment, where the work finally matched the vision she'd been quietly carrying for years. That single sentence trended across platforms, quoted by fans who felt seen by her words. What followed was a noticeable shift in their public dynamic. They didn't need to be constantly together to feel connected. A subtle mention here, a shared glance at an event, a moment caught off camera that found its way online. Fans began calling it soft dominance, a presence so strong it didn't need explanation. Of course, success invites scrutiny. Rumors surfaced, as they always do. Speculation about rivalry, about secret negotiations, about who was leading whom. But none of it stuck. There were no reaction posts, no defensive clarifications. Lena and Miu moved forward exactly as they had before, focused, composed, and untouched by the noise. That silence spoke louder than any statement. By late 2026, one moment crystallized everything. An award stage appearance, simple, unscripted, unguarded. Lena spoke first, thanking the team. Miu followed, dedicating her words to everyone who grew with us, even when we were still figuring things out. The crowd stood, not out of obligation, but recognition, because everyone in that room understood what the fans already knew. Lena and Miu didn't take over 2026 by force. They earned it step by step, choice by choice. And as the lights dimmed and the applause faded, one thought lingered in the air. If this is what their era looks like at the beginning, what happens when they fully step into it? The story, unmistakably, was far from over. As the year aged closer to its final quarter, something even more telling began to happen around Lena and Miu. The conversation shifted from achievements to legacy. People no longer spoke only about projects or numbers. They spoke about impact, about how newer artists referenced them not just as inspirations, but as proof that patience and intention still mattered in an industry obsessed with speed. Insiders revealed that both Lena and Miu had quietly turned down multiple high-profile offers. Not because the opportunities weren't big enough, but because they didn't feel right. That decision alone fueled another wave of discussion. In 2026, saying no had become their boldest move yet. Then came the creative pivot. Instead of announcing something flashy, they appeared separately at different cultural events, film forums, creative labs, charity showcases. Yet somehow, every appearance felt connected. Fans noticed the patterns before the media did. The shared themes, the aligned messaging, the mutual respect woven into every mention of the other. One producer later admitted that working with them felt like collaborating with artists who already knew where they were headed, even if the audience didn't yet. And then, without warning, the quietest moment became the loudest. A single behind-the-scenes photo surfaced online. No caption, no tags, just Lena and Miu sitting side by side, reviewing a script, deep in conversation. Within hours, it dominated timelines. Not because it confirmed anything concrete, but because it captured intent, focus, purpose. Fans weren't asking if something big was coming anymore. They were asking how ready the world was for it. What made their dominance different was its tone. There was no rush to claim crowns or titles, no dramatic declarations, just consistency, trust, and an unspoken understanding that growth didn't need an audience to be real. As award season approached, predictions flooded in. Best collaborations, cultural impact honors, even leadership accolades. But Lena and Miu remained unchanged, showing up, doing the work, letting the results speak. And in that calm, a realization settled across the industry. This wasn't a takeover driven by hype. It was the beginning of an era defined by control, clarity, and quiet power. As the final months of 2026 loomed, one truth became impossible to ignore. Lena and Miu weren't just shaping this year. They were shaping what came after it. As winter settled in, the industry finally began to catch up with what fans had sensed all along. Lena and Miu were no longer reacting to trends, they were setting the pace. Behind closed doors, meetings grew more intentional. Not crowded boardrooms, not chaotic press briefings, just small rooms, trusted collaborators, and long conversations about direction. A creative director who crossed paths with them later shared one striking detail. They spoke less about fame and more about longevity, about what it meant to still matter 5, 10 years from now. That mindset started to show in subtle ways. Their styling became cleaner, more deliberate. Their interviews grew shorter, but more thoughtful. Every public word felt weighed, every appearance purposeful. Fans noticed how they never overshadowed each other, never competed for the spotlight. Instead, they moved like two forces aware of their individual strength and even more aware of what alignment could create. Then came the shift no one expected. Rather than announcing a major project through traditional channels, Lena and Miu allowed others to speak first. Directors hinted. Co-stars teased. Industry journals speculated. By the time the public realized something was forming, it already felt inevitable. And yet, they stayed silent. That silence became powerful. Online discussions exploded, not with chaos, but with anticipation. Fans rewatched old moments, traced creative growth, compared past interviews to present ones. The narrative evolved naturally. This wasn't about a single hit or viral moment. It was about evolution done right. When Lena finally broke the silence during a brief appearance, she didn't tease a title or date. She simply said, "We're building something we want to be proud of, even when the noise fades." Miu echoed that sentiment days later, adding, "Success feels different when you choose it instead of chasing it." Those two lines alone dominated headlines. By then, younger artists were already following their lead, setting boundaries, prioritizing craft, redefining what it meant to rise without burning out. Executives adjusted strategies. Brands softened their demands. The ripple effect was real. As the year approached its close, one thing became clear. 2026 wasn't remembered as the year Lena and Miu arrived. It was remembered as the year they took ownership. Not loudly, not recklessly, but with intention so steady it reshaped the room. And as the world looked toward what came next, the question had quietly changed. Not what Lena and Miu would do next, but how many others would follow the path they just created.